I was 13 years old.
Father was the leader of a Mormon religious cult.
It was creepy old men with very young underage girls. He's rubbing my leg. I'm 9, and he's already starting to groom me to become his wife.
Last video just ended episode 2 of Daughters of a Cult. That was crazy. They almost caught Orville LeBaron. They literally had him right in front of them. The police were there in his house, ready to arrest him, and they got someone else that pretended to be him. So Orville's just sitting in his house now with all of his kids and his wives, and the police are leaving with his right-hand man, Dan, but he's home free. He can do whatever he wants now. And he immediately starts setting up his next escape route and where he's going to hide and where he's going to move. And he even separates some of the kids from the parents and sends them all off to different places. And he goes off into hiding, and then back over at the police station, it doesn't take the cops long to realize that they screwed up big time. They were so close. So Orville, once again, gets away with everything he's doing. And at this point, he probably is thinking like, wow, I am God. Like, this is amazing. I cannot believe I got away with this. And he probably feels like he can do whatever he wants now. It's taking so long for them to catch this guy. It's crazy. Leading this cult and sending all of his family into hiding, and he himself going into hiding. But he keeps on, like they're talking about letters that he's sending to other polygamous prophets saying that they better pay him tithing. And like, it sounds like he really is letting this whole him being God thing get to his head. He's getting extremely cocky. He's prophesying for the other polygamous prophets and telling them that they need to pay and send all of their tithing money to him because he's the true prophet and they're all false prophets and everything. And man, he's doubling down on all of his crazy leadership roles and what he wants all of his cult members to do for him. Now, from the information that they got from their insider, son of Orville, who's Isaac, that was upset about them killing his sister. So he's kind of giving information to the FBI. With that information, they are able to find Ramona and Rena, 2 girls that went into the office of Rulon Alred. And it was the younger girl, I believe, Rena, that ended up killing him. But they find those 2 girls. At first, they don't even question the daughter, like at all. And all the eyes are on the mother, the older of the 2 girls, Ramona. But eventually, somehow deduct it down to the fact, they weren't very clear on this, but it ends up them realizing that it was Rena. Or at least everything gets pointed and put onto Rena. Because apparently, according to the series, they're saying that she was the one that pulled the trigger. And so I don't know if it's fingerprints or what, but somehow they find out, or the evidence, I guess, points towards Rena being the one that actually committed the murder, right? So Rena's the one that has to go to trial, is facing this life sentence in prison. But at this time, there's been quite a bit of time between the murder happening and them getting caught, and she has already had a child and is pregnant with another child. So she's going to court literally with a child inside of her. And so her lawyer plays to that hardcore and is telling her to not act so shy, because she's this very shy, she's just a shy girl, not used to talking to people, not used to being even out in public, like at all. And so they're kind of like having her play this victim role and saying like, they are pointing out all of the crazy things with the cult that she is in and the manipulation that Orville has on her. They're getting her try and win over the judge, but also, I don't know the name of it, but the people that are, I guess, are like courts. What is it called? The people that are on the stand or whatever. I don't know what it's called. But anyways, so she tells this story. She forces herself to be more talkative and less shy. Shows all of her good sides, basically. Eventually, it gets to the point where they make the decision and the judge reads the verdict and says that she is not guilty. Oh, this might be in Texas, though. That's right. One of the safe houses they were in was in Texas. So the judge concludes that she is not guilty, and they let her go. And because she wasn't guilty and she didn't have to go to jail, they didn't even go back to accusing Ramona, her mother, because essentially they came to the conclusion that either these two didn't do it or they were manipulated into doing it, or like just doing it on behalf of Ervil. Not themselves. They were not decide that they aren't the killer. Pretty obvious that Ervil's behind everything, but apparently they had clear enough evidence to know that it was the daughter that actually ended up doing the shooting and killing him versus the mother. But maybe I guess it wasn't enough evidence to fully conclude that that's for sure what happened, which is weird because it's enough evidence for the series to say that, yeah, this daughter was the one that killed him. But in the court cases, with all the evidence being presented, it wasn't enough to convict her. Or there's always the potential of there could have been bribes that have happened and things behind the scenes that we don't even know about, or the court and the judge, to allow them to not be determined guilty. All that is a potential, but what ends up happening is that she is not found guilty and she's able to be let go. Same with her mother. So the two girls are now in the clear, no longer wanted for this crime, but everything is still being pointed towards Ervil LeBaron, and they're still in the search for him. They still want him for this murder, and he's just in hiding right now. So let's see what happens next.
Jordan was held in jail in Ensenada, Mexico.
I don't believe I'll have any statement to make at this time. I do thank you for coming. Thank you for your attention.
Dan is let off as well.
Jordan, are you surprised?
I won't have any comments made at this time. Thank you very much.
Interesting. So there may be a bigger plan behind this that I'm not fully seeing. Maybe they'll point it out later on in the series. But Ervil is telling some of his members to go and turn themselves in and basically come clean for the stuff that they've done, and just not mention anything about Ervil, of course, but to like confess of anything that they've done and come clean and serve their time or whatever. And so there's multiple members that are turning themselves in, letting themselves get arrested, serving their time for whatever it is. Obviously, much smaller things than what Ervil is being convicted of, but they are serving their time and then being let go. And eventually, Ervil's right-hand man, Dan, that was going to prison for Ervil, gets let go. So something along that process allows them to, I guess, still put all the blame on Ervil, but a lot of his followers are confessing their things that they did, and they weren't as extreme of things as what Ervil is behind. So I guess they're starting to see kind of this trend that the members aren't necessarily the ones that are guilty, so they're letting them go, but everything's getting pinned on Ervil. They need to find Ervil. Like, he's the one that should be in prison for all these things, right? And I guess it works because it gets his right-hand man out, and he's able to go back to helping Ervil. Sorry, which is extra crazy because if you watch the full series or watch my other episode or my other YouTube video on the first episode, we know that Dan, Ervil's right-hand man, was the direct person that killed the very first prophet. So Dan is not an innocent person. He's very guilty of crimes as well, but they just can't pin them to him. A lot of the evidence is pinning everything to Ervil and not Dan, some of his other followers anyways. So it's been almost 12 years of Ervil LeBaron evading the law or the police and the FBI and being in hiding and getting away, like having his people murder people and running this cult of his, and they finally catch him. And how they catch him is actually pretty anticlimactic, and that's life, It's not always this crazy big thing. But literally, they don't fully even know why, but all of a sudden, the police in Mexico decide to go and arrest him. And they have speculation. Some of them wonder if it's because he was causing issues there and they didn't want things to get worse. They were comparing it to a group, Jonestown group, large group of religious people ended up dying. And I don't remember if they said they killed themselves or if there was a mass shooting or what, but there was a large religious group. All the members died in it, and they didn't want a repeat of that. And so they're hearing about his cult and the strange things that he's doing, and they're wondering if maybe that's why police in Mexico started worrying about it. Whatever it was, they finally decided to go and arrest him, and hand him over. It's funny too because it's not even for the murder that he was behind in Mexico of his older brother Joel, but the U.S. government is after him, and the police, I'm sure, notified the government in Mexico, and so that's the reason why they go and arrest him for whatever crimes he committed in America. And they go and get him, and they just hand him across the border to the police in America. So that's how they finally end up getting him, and no one fully knows exactly why. But bottom line, they finally caught him, and they finally have him arrested, and they take him to prison. As he's getting arrested, he is straight up telling people to not be rude to him or to respect him because he has the authority from God to kill anyone who wants to. So he's basically trying to threaten them with his godly power. So his idea of him playing this God figure really is getting to his head. It sounds like he's going crazy. Reports show that Orville LeBaron was in questioning room, whatever, with the officer, and he talks for hours upon hours, then sharing all of his prophecies and how important he is and all the great things that he's accomplished and why he needs to be let go because God's going to be upset. All these things that he just rants on and on about. In going to jail. Like they caught him. He's not getting out of this one. Yet he's talking to them as if they can't touch him and there's nothing they can do. And he's literally in handcuffs. The cops are just looking at this guy like he's just this crazy person. He's absolutely out of his mind.
When I first realized I was going to see Orville LeBaron, I was very uncertain about what he was like. I remember someone saying he had these deep-set eyes that look evil. I said, well, evil Orville, that fits.
His own attorney, because he gets a public defender, and his attorney's going to meet this guy, and he's heard of this Orville LeBaron who's been all over the news and wanted by the FBI, and he has to go represent him. And he's talking about how he's literally going to meet the guy, and he's like scared out of his mind, hearing all these horrible, crazy stories about the guy, and literally calling him evil Orville. Before he goes and has to represent it.
Back in those days, we would meet person to person just across the table. No guards in there.
Sorry, this is not... I shouldn't be laughing. It's way out of context, I know. And seeing everything after the fact, I don't know why it's funny to me, but this lawyer is just going on the camera. He's being interviewed, talking about how he's worried he's going to be in a room with just him and Orville, and there's not going to be police or security, and he's frying. He's scared out of his mind. I would be too, though. That would be terrifying. And he wants a whole army behind him protecting him from this guy. It's his job. He has to go represent him. He just goes to do it. One of the people they get to testify in the court is Orville's son, Isaac, the same one that was giving the police insider information about his dad. And they're describing the scene of when he goes out and he keeps looking down at his dad. And even though he knows that his dad is evil, he is still looking at him like that's his father, that's his dad. And he is testifying to get his dad to go to prison because he knows his dad's an evil person and all these bad things that he's done. And he's having the hardest time doing it. And I'm sure he's scared for his life, knowing that his dad has people behind him that will murder other people for him. And so when he's convicting his dad, assisting and getting his dad put into jail, his dad is going to be out to get him. And he's literally risking his life to tell the truth about his father. So it's finally enough. He gets convicted and he's found guilty. And they send him to prison. So many people are relieved that he finally is going to jail. And they don't have to worry about who he's going to hunt down next. He caused so many problems. It's crazy. He struck a lot of fear into a lot of people. He's in prison. He starts spending a lot of his time writing notes, writing letters to people, putting together lists, and we're about to find out what those are for. But he's got a lot of time to think, a lot of time to himself, and a lot of time to write down all these things that he wants his followers and his people to do, all these new rules, all these new prophecies that he has for them. Very similar to, it kind of makes me think of Warren Jeffs. When Warren Jeffs went to prison, he got a lot more strict. He started prophesying things to his members of his group, of the FLDS. So I find it kind of interesting that the series doesn't mention what his sentence was. It just says that he was found guilty and sent to prison. So I Googled it, and he was sentenced to life in prison. And so it kind of makes sense what his next orders were. When he started getting more and more strict, sending more and more extreme prophecies to his members, members kept coming and visiting him in prison. He would testify to them and tell them what they needed to do. Eventually, revelation, that the members need to come and break him out of prison. Full-on maximum security prison that he is sentenced there for life. And I think it just hits him. He realizes that he's stuck there forever, for the rest of his life. And so he starts telling his members to start plotting and planning a way to break him out of prison. And of course, his followers can't do that. A lot of them don't even consider the idea. Some of them do look into it, but it doesn't end up happening. They realize that's an impossible task, and it upsets him so much. He starts trying to basically punish his members for not doing what he asked them to, even though he asked them to do the impossible.
They were actually carrying them out.
But that was a long time ago.
I'm just trying to establish.
Now the siblings are all arguing on what they think was happening within the prison cell and between Orville the prophet and his right-hand man Dan, when he was sending these prophecies and trying to convince his members to do stuff. And they just keep going back and forth arguing. No, I think it was this. Oh, I think he was thinking this, or this was probably happening. But the one thing that is very clear is, according to the written prophecies and what Orville is telling his members, he's sounding crazier and crazier. So either the prison's driving him crazy, or his crazy's just coming through, I guess. Also, one thing I forgot to mention is the murder that was very public, and the reason why Orville LeBaron's in prison is for the leader of the AUB group, which is the same group that Cody Brown is in from Sister Wives. So a lot of people don't know the AUB group very much, but it's that same polygamous group that Cody Brown, who filmed Sister Wives on, was a part of. So that's the prophet. That's the group, the polygamous group, that the prophet that was murdered by Orville LeBaron's people. So it was a very, very big, well-known public event, basically. And everyone was going crazy about it. Everyone was freaking out. And a lot of people are scared for their lives because of it. So shortly after he ends up going to prison, the followers are waiting to hear back from him. And eventually they get a phone call letting them know that he was found dead in his prison cell. It seems really shady on how they're saying that he dies. There's a lot of speculation, but it sounds like nobody fully knows, or at least wants to admit what happened there, how he ended up dying. The lawyer says that it looks like someone was out to get him, but then the official report says that he died of a heart attack. One of the medical inspectors says that it could have been an overdose, like he was trying to commit suicide and he overdosed on his medication. So there's quite a few speculations on what actually ended up happening, but the official report says he had a heart attack and he was only 56 or around there. So a lot of people don't think that that's true. So who knows what actually ended up happening, but shortly after he went to prison, he ended up dead in his prison cell. Quite see that coming. I bet he didn't even see that coming, actually. He's sitting in his prison cell waiting for his followers, his loyal, dedicated followers that up to this point have done basically anything he asked them to. And he's just sitting there waiting them to come and rescue him, break him out of prison. And that's not going to happen. Maybe he did lose hope and ended up just wanting to end things. Maybe someone was out to get him. Who knows? But either way, dying in prison. And now the followers have the question of what happens now to the group. They aren't the biggest group. There's not a whole lot of them left. I'm sure a ton of people ended up not wanting to follow him anymore after all the craziness that he put his own members through, but all the things that he got openly accused for, and there was evidence showing all these horrible things that he did. But of course, there's still his family. There's still those dedicated followers. They're now wondering, what next? What do we do? So now that Orville is dead, they go to clean out his prison cell, and there is countless documents, all these things that he has written, papers, lists and lists full of writings that he left. And the followers go through everything, and they put everything together into a book. And in the book, it has a section that lists out people that he is demanding, in essence, for his followers to go and murder these people. So his death doesn't actually end all of the murder and chaos. It still continues through his followers. And there's a group of people that take that book and take it to heart and truly believe in it and dedicate themselves and all the people that will follow them and still consider themselves the followers of Ervil. And they decide that they're going to fulfill all the prophecies in that book and try and do exactly what it says. So all the chaos continued. That's the end. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one. Bye.